Hey, how you doing today? It's a great day today, and I have a super cool guest on my porch today, Mr. Pete Friedlander. How you doing, Pete?
All right, how you doing?
And Pete, he has my heart because he's a bass player, and that's freaking awesome in itself. And the only reason I'm so biased is because I play bass too. So
It's like we're
welcome,
talking to
Pete.
each other.
Yeah, it's like we're talking to each other.
That's
So
right.
welcome, Pete. So, are you originally from here, Pete?
Originally, I'm from Virginia, Northern Virginia, like Alexandria, and then we moved to Baltimore, Maryland. So
Okay.
lived in Baltimore, Maryland for a little while.
Cool.
Just mom, my brother, and myself. Dad moved on somewhere else, so he's kind of like out of the picture, kind of thing.
Right.
But so we lived in Baltimore, Maryland for a little while. Ironically, we lived in the same apartment building that Dave DeMarco lived
Really?
in. Yes. So, like, when I went later on, I went for a lesson, and I was like, dude, you're like 3 floors above where I lived at when I was like 4 years old. So
Cool.
it was kind of like a weird kind of like flashback to my youth at that point.
Sweet.
So, yeah, so we lived in Baltimore, Maryland, and then we moved to Howard County, Maryland. And then I kind of took off on my own and did the North Carolina, Tennessee type thing.
Right.
Got into some music, got into some terrible situations.
Of course, when we're young,
course.
we don't make the greatest decisions, right?
Right, absolutely not. And then eventually came back into Maryland, in Frederick, Maryland. I've been here, probably been here about 25, almost 30 years now.
Oh, great.
So,
how did you get your start? I mean, we all have a starting point. Most of us are when we're super young. When did you start playing the bass?
So I didn't start playing the bass until actually it was my wife Mary that told me that I should play the bass. Originally, I played in my youth. I played clarinet, and then I took the clarinet and I moved that on to playing guitar. And I played guitar for a while, and I was in a cover band. I was back in Frederick, Maryland at that point, in a cover band, and we were having a hell of a time trying to find a bass player in the area because at that time, bass players just weren't as rich as they are right now.
Right.
So Mary's like, why don't you just play the bass? So I sold I had to trade in all my guitar equipment.
Right.
Because bass equipment costs so much, I didn't realize.
Right.
And then I started playing bass, and that was probably like about 20 years ago, I think, maybe a little in between that.
So when you transitioned, how did you feel about that? I mean, were you...
Actually, I thought it was a lot easier. At the time, I was actually having problems cramping. My hands were cramping whenever I play. I couldn't hit all the notes on the guitar.
Right.
So when I switched over to a 4-string, it was just like, oh, this is so much easier.
Right.
My hands just kind of gravitated towards it.
Right.
I already had that rhythm.
Right.
So I didn't have that terrible rhythmically challenged issue that some people have, or some new players have. So I already had that rhythm from previously playing guitar and previously playing clarinet.
Right.
I already had the tablature reading and the sight reading from that.
Right.
That kind of carried me over to guitar playing, that carried me over to the bass playing.
Right.
So
as I've discussed with other people, we always start out with band instruments, when we're kids, Chris Murray on the trumpet, I played trumpet,
Right.
Moira played the flute, so we all started out with band instruments just to kind of transition and find where we really wanted to settle,
Yeah.
And so you actually transitioned to guitar and then to the bass.
That's right.
Right. That's a great story, man. So do you remember the name of your first band?
The first band I was in, I think, was called JR Rocks. That was the first band that I was trying to find a bass player for, that I ended up just transitioning to bass for them. We lasted about 6 months, and then that just folded. It was just like we didn't get out to play. We learned all this material, but it was a nice way to cut my teeth. My first official bass playing band was a band called Half Shell, and they were based out of Damascus, Maryland. It had Randy Anderson on drums, George Snyder on guitar. These guys are off and on. I don't think they play music anymore. But they've been in other situations as well. Had great female vocals. So we played a lot of that classic rock, top 40, disco, whatever we
you
could,
guys are all over the
play.
place.
They kind of keep the music going. They keep the upbeat there.
Right. Keep them out on the dance floor.
Right, absolutely.
Stuff.
Keep the beats moving, kind of thing. So
cool.
Yeah,
Half Shell, huh?
Half Shell, which actually later became another band called Love Lucy. I don't know if you ever heard of them before.
No, I've never heard of those guys.
They were around the same time that like Redline.
Redline was
Dominique mentioned
Redline.
Redline. So Redline, Love Lucy. That was that whole. It was like the battle of who could play at the outhouse more times or something like that. So,
right. Yeah, you got that one spot that everybody's just like
everybody wants to get
right?
the outhouse place, and who could have the most double nights at the outhouse.
Right. Come home totally exhausted and ready to do it the next day. Right.
Yeah, leave all your stuff there. Thankfully, you can leave your stuff there, and then come back. But it was just like, oh man,
doing a double
at the same place. Sunday morning comes along, and you're just like, okay, I'm exhausted. I
remember those days. Yeah, when I was on the road with a country band when I was young, we actually played 6 nights at the same place.
Wow.
6 nights.
6 nights.
Yeah, but that was the country music scene. So the country places we were doing along Interstate 10, and so they were playing 6 nights a week, man. Sunday night was the only night we didn't play. We played Monday nights, which was really weird, man.
Wow.
We'd have like 20 people in there we're playing music for,
I see that a lot in this area now, that they're trying to like boost up Thursday nights, like Wednesday nights, Thursday nights. They almost want it like 4 nights a week now. Right.
Yeah, Boogie and Freddie Long are playing at Callahan's on Wednesday night.
Right.
So, they're bringing in the smaller acts, on the weeknights.
Yeah, that makes
sense.
sense.
Bringing the big acts on the weekends.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a great plan. I'm glad to see it's flourishing again. How about you, man?
Absolutely. I'm glad that these places are. We had a nice little break from COVID. Thank you.
Yes.
Everybody got a good break on that. We got a chance to kind of
I don't know if I like those kind of breaks.
Retune and redefine. I at the time I was in Poverty Ridge, and we were just cooking.
Right.
I mean, we were playing pretty much every weekend, all the time.
Right.
And for a solid 4 years like that, you get burnt pretty quickly. Right,
yeah, it gets old.
While COVID was a terrible thing that happened, and it's still kind of prevalent, it was a nice break, I thought. Right. It was a nice little 6-month break that you could just, let's just stay at home.
Right.
We're not doing anything. We're not going to get in trouble. You can kind of redefine, refocus. Right. And then come back out swinging again, and it didn't take very long. I mean, it was like basically 6 months if you look back at it, and people were back out playing again, secretly playing, but they were playing still. I mean, we were secretly playing,
So you play, so I was going to ask if you played other instruments, but you do. You played the clarinet and the guitar.
Played the clarinet, played the guitar. Yep.
Anything else?
I tried banjo for a little bit.
How'd that go for you?
I have one at home.
You have one at home.
I acquired it from my dad when he passed. I acquired his banjo, but I had tried it before. It was one of those things where my mom was like, "I really like the sound of banjo. You should try to learn it." I'm like, "Okay, sure, you say so, and I'll try to learn it." And it was tough. It was I couldn't get at the time. I just didn't have that kind of finger thing going on at the time. I had this going on, clarinet, but I didn't have how you do this and hold chords down. I thought you had to constantly. It just didn't work out for me.
You thought you had to move around like a bass.
Yeah, with bass, you kind of move around a little bit more. Around. You still play some chords like you do on banjo, but you just have 2 fingers on a bass most times, or maybe sometimes you use your ring finger.
Right.
But banjo, you're using pretty much all 5 fingers, and then you're still moving these fingers too. So you're not just playing chords.
A lot of articulation.
Yeah, this is like, wow. I mean, maybe drummers can do it, but I just, I was just like, I don't know.
You'd be like Les Claypool on the banjo, right?
Les Claypool on the banjo. Oh my God,
that's pretty funny.
Wyona's big. What was that? Wyona's brown beaver on the banjo. Oh my God, man! Wyona's brown beaver.
That'd be kind of interesting to see.
That'd be kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Might be kind of neat like that.
Shoot, now you got my mind reeling. I was thinking of a project where I could bring a banjo in.
Yeah, you have to get a banjo and learn that one Primus song.
Right.
You don't have to slap. I've never seen a banjo player slap, so.
Slap banjo.
Slap
Bing, bing, bing.
Is it? Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. So, let's switch gears a little bit, man, because that cracks me up. I mean, I'm actually like getting some ideas now in my head, and they're going like really wild directions.
Electric banjo.
So, speaking of getting creative, have you ever done any songwriting?
Songwriting. I've done some songwriting. It's kind of like, it's kind of hard to stay. I find it hard to stay positive when I write something because I'm kind of trying to bring in my feelings of what's going on around me. So I tend to kind of write negatively. And then I'm like, no, that's not good. I don't want to put that out. Musically wise, it's kind of upbeat and positive. I did play with Supertones for a couple months back in 2022.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was fun. That was all original rock.
That's cool.
And I've been working with another guy, Bob Pfizer, I think that's his last name, at Lady of the Noise in Liberty Town. So last year he invited me up, and he's a guitar player, and he's got a drummer friend that also runs the studio Lady of the Noise. So he invited me out, and I've been doing some bassline work for him.
Oh, great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're doing session work and a little bit of studio work with these guys.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean,
So how do you feel about that? I mean, I hear a lot of horror stories about, bass players in recording studios, where the bass player goes in, he lays down his lines, and then when he leaves, the engineer goes in and
redoes them.
replays the lines.
Right. Well, yeah, so I've actually, this last time I laid down a bass line, they're like, oh man, it's awesome. Right. And I actually kind of hung around just to watch and see what they do with it. And he did kind of adjust it a little bit. He compressed it. He had a little bit of effect to it. Right. Because it was just a straight mono line. Right. And then he was like, what do you think if I just kind of pitch shift this right here? And we talked about it a little bit. Yeah. And I said, let's pitch shift that, and then I'll just keep that in my notes so that if we ever want to re-record again, then I'll have that figured out. Right. So, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's like, no, we're not doing that. Right. And right now, because it's a process or it's not finalized, there might be back there just kind of messing around with it, and it's mostly for Bob. Bob just wanted to have something recordings. He doesn't want to, as far as I know, he doesn't want to play them out. Right. If he ever does, then that's great. He's got to go. He'll have to go the full course and get a keyboard player and everybody else involved and backup singers and such like that. Right. But for now, as far as I know, it's just like a home kind of thing, like a personal usage thing. Yeah, I hear you, man. Yeah. So, what performers influence you for your style? I mean, we all have our heroes, right? Heroes, right. Who are your low end heroes, man? Wow. I mean, you have a lot, right? Is that why you're saying wow, or you don't have any? I might not have any, really. You don't have any heroes? I don't have any heroes. Mean, any bass players that inspire you to do maybe certain types of phrasing or certain licks? Or I like a lot of the local players. Right. So, the Les Claypool, great bass player. The Stu Ham, amazing bass player, right? And all those guys can just do whatever, all that stuff. But I don't really watch them very often. So I'm more surrounded by the local people around here, like Michael Francis. We're Michael out there watching him play Nowhere Fast, and I was just like, man, the way he just plays that bass line is just on a particular song or whatever. Right. It's just. That's a great bass line, the way he's playing it. Right. That really kind of makes me want to go and re-listen to that particular song. Right. And say, maybe I can add whatever he's taking and put it into my style. Right. I look at the way people use their fingers. When they play We Won't Be Fooled Again by The Who. Oh, he's doing an Entwistle bass line. Michael Francis, man, he's all over it, man. He's all over it.
He is. But, he's got a lot of musical history, too.
Oh, yeah.
He was in Los Angeles music scene for a while, and he's recorded, and he's toured in Europe. He's done all kinds of stuff that we can only dream of, right?
That's amazing.
So if he was anything less, after doing all that stuff, I'd be a little disappointed,
Right.
So, but I mean, he is incredible. And, I do the same thing you do. I watch him. I'm like, wow, look at his fingers just move,
moving.
But it's his tone, too. He's got a really good, solid, clean tone,
He's got a little dirt on the underlie, but for the most part, it is just like straightforward.
But he prefers that grungy
He does like
sound.
that grungy sound,
Yeah, that's his tone,
Yeah, and same with even Dave DeMarco. I've seen him play a few times.
I love Dave DeMarco.
And he's very inspiring. I mean,
he's my mentor.
Yeah, he's your mentor, right.
So definitely follow Dave's style pretty much. I think what Dave has taught me the most, and he probably taught you as well, is the theory behind it. The how to quickly pick things up where they're going to go based on what the guitar player's playing. If they're doing like a minor chord or some weird add 9 chord.
Yeah, really. It's like I had one lesson with him, and the one lesson was really like I said, "Hey man, I got your name, and I was having trouble trying to figure out how to slap." And he goes, "Oh yeah, come on up to the apartment in the studio, and I'll show you how to do it." And in the process of doing that, he was like, Maybe slap isn't your thing, because I wasn't really getting the technique, and I still don't really have the technique there. Right. And he's like, just, for you, look at chording, look at what your guitar player's playing. You've got that guitar player background. Right. So look at what they're doing, listen to what they're doing, listen how that flows, and then play as you're going to play it. Right. And that really helped out. I mean, that little just structure there, basically, that just that material, that information.
Another bass player that really inspires me is John Wapple. Oh my goodness, his hand is on the neck, barely moving, and he's playing this complex bass line, but you can barely see his hand moving. And the way he mutes the strings and keeps it so clean.
Yeah, a lot of guys just like cover up everything they do. You have no idea.
It's amazing, just to watch him play. And he's playing with a pick. Yeah. So he's using that left hand on the fretboard to mute the strings. But it looks like he's barely moving, and he's cranking out a really quick phrase on the bass. It's amazing to watch him, and I know he's got a lot of years of experience.
I don't know how those guys do that with that pick. I can't.
Right, it's impossible for me. I mean, I can do it. Yeah. I don't like to do it.
I could do it on like maybe one or two songs, but after a while, like my whole hand just gets. I just don't have the technique.
Right, this area right here in my hand.
Yeah.
After a while, right in this, I just can't. I can't keep it going.
No, it's enough for me.
I'll get back to these two guys.
That's right. Yeah, they work every time. I mean, they never fail. They're right there.
And if you want to dig in.
That's right. Yeah, you got plenty of your balance. You got plenty of your technique there.
Right. Okay. Hey, we're so glad you're here with us today, and as always, we've got to make sure Michelle gets credit for the great snack she made today. And this is what most people covet, is her wonderful cream puffs. Go ahead and take one of those, man.
She makes the best cream puffs.
And the thing about these cream puffs, you got to be careful because there's stuffing inside. You take a big bite, you better have plenty of napkins. And I didn't bring any napkins, man, so you got to use your shirt. But anyways, Michelle made Pete these wonderful cream puffs.
Awesome.
And we're going to sit down and have some coffee and enjoy these cream puffs today. And if you want to get on the front porch, all you got to do is reach out to me, let me know, and let Michelle know, and she'll make you any kind of snack you want, even cream puffs. But if you got the cream puffs, you got to give her a few days notice because these things aren't easy to make.
True.
All right? So, hey, man.
Thanks, John.
Enjoy the cream puff.
Thank you.
And we're going to get you back to the interview. Thanks for joining us today.
All right.
So, when we get up on stage, there's always that moment that something weird or wild happens, right?
Right.
Do you have any of those moments you want to share?
Most of our stage antics are pretty clean. I mean, the Odd House was kind of weird. We had the stage moved. So when you're on the stage, it's constantly rocking. If the drummer really gets into it, the drummer gets into it, you're just like kind of holding on. You're holding on. First time we played at Frankie's Bar and Grill in Poverty Ridge, they put us on the wooden wagon.
Oh, the hay wagon.
The hay wagon, right. And I think we were probably the last band to ever play on the hay wagon. And Kenny's like just rocking that thing, and we're just like barely holding on. I've got like my feet planted, and my fingers are just kind of hitting whatever strings are happening.
Right. Yeah, I've actually seen a few bands on. I saw Katanga on the hay wagon. Same thing, man. They were like,
we were going to flip that thing over on its back or whatever, or it's just going to take off rolling.
Right.
Oh man, that was a crazy.
Now
crazy
I know
gig.
You've told me some stories about when guys come up to sit in and play a bass line or two.
Yeah,
we get a couple of strange characters that want to play your bass.
Yeah, I get a couple people that want to come up and play bass. There's this, I'm not going to remember his name, and I'm not going to point him out.
Right, that's cool.
Sure, once this video gets released, and he'll be like, what? Come on, man. So we were at this bar in Timonium. I'm not going to name the bar. Because it's still around and bands still play there.
Right. Okay.
But he, so the bandmates knew him more than I knew him.
Right.
They mentioned the bands he was in. I was like, oh yeah, I know those bands. Those are great Baltimore. He's in a couple really good Baltimore bands, and he's like, but he wants to play your bass. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And he's like, but then they said, well, we gotta let you know, he licks his fingers before he plays your bass. And I'm like, what do you mean? It looks his finger like that? I was like, no. Like he puts his fingers in his mouth, both his fingers in his mouth, and then pulls it out, and then plays your bass.
That is so strange.
So I said, I'm so sorry. No.
I would have said no too.
I don't know. I want to see somebody pulling out drool out of their mouth.
Oh.
Playing the bass on, and
I wonder
if you have like a cleaning supply afterwards. Like, are you going to clean it and detail it and disinfect it for me afterwards? Then yeah, maybe sure. But since I didn't see it on him, I didn't see any kind of fanny pack, like any cleaning supplies or anything like that. No, I just assumed that.
And then he hands it back to you, and this stuff's
and you got this drool of his slobber all over your, and then you got it on your fingers. And then you're playing the whole night thinking,
and then you rub your eye.
That's right, you rub your eye, and you got his
with a cold or something like that.
You wind up with COVID. So then, I mean,
nice.
Yeah. So I on that one, I said no.
Right.
I said no to that one. I've had other people come up and play the bass, and they do some kind of fancy slap work or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Don't ever do that again. Right. So, but for the most part, people and a few people that have come up and want to play, and they have no idea how to play.
Right.
You get those.
Yeah.
We have a couple of those that came out and they couldn't. Like, yeah, I know that song, cool, and they do it, and it's like
trip all over it.
I'm like, no, you don't. You're not even in the same key as the song is in.
Hey, I'm guilty of that as well.
Yeah.
You know? Here's a funny story. You actually saw this happen to me at the Morgan Inn. Dave O'Connell's our sound guy.
Right. Dave's a good guy.
It's towards the end of the night. We're all just ready to just do the finale, and we're getting into it. And we were playing a Judas Priest song, and apparently I was supposed to be on an A, and I kept going to a G. And Dave comes up, and he just grabs my finger, and he slides it up to the A. And I was like, cool, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And I think he was probably the only one that really noticed it, because it was just a momentary thing, you know? And I think the G and the A were part of the same.
G and A kind of
They were part of the same structure of the scale we were playing in, so it wasn't so obvious.
Yeah.
But to him, it was driving him crazy.
Oh yeah, it was driving him crazy. Yeah, and that's great to have somebody actually come up and just kind of nudge you along. Most times, band and I'm kind of guilty. I know I'm playing the wrong note, but nobody's saying anything to me about it. Right. And then I see a recording of it. I'm like, oh man, I wish somebody just told me that.
Why were you telling me that?
Tell me that I'm supposed to play in C and not F.
Right.
Or even though they're very close to each other.
Right.
And you can sort of get away with it, but
Yeah, my luck is always it's a C and I'm playing a B. And it sounds like two cats stuck in a tree.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what was going on
What's
there?
that walk down again? And everyone's like, everyone's playing the other walk down, and it was like, oh, that's going to sound terrible. Yeah.
And then people are like, wow, that's kind of edgy.
That was kind of edgy. I really like what you did there, which really means that you messed up, and they didn't want to say
super progressive of you on that one.
Yeah, super progressive. I've heard that one before. Yeah. That was really cool how you kind of made it your own. Yeah.
So I know we have these weird moments on stage, and then we also experience a lot of highs and lows, and mostly highs, but sometimes lows, and especially when we're trying to prepare for a show or getting jazzed up. We go out there and we don't see a huge crowd or we don't see a lot of people, So any of those moments you want to share?
Yeah, when I first started playing, I wore my facial expressions hard.
Right.
I mean, Mary told me, it's like, don't look down, don't look up at the air when you mess up. Especially don't look up and do that when you mess up.
Right.
Don't look down at the ground. Try to keep your face forward, smile as much as possible. And you play at places that are like dust bunnies.
Right.
And we've all had them.
Yep.
We've all played at places that are like 6 people and 4 of them are the employees.
Right.
So, and over the years, I just kind of developed to say, well, this is a really good practice for us.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're getting paid.
Yep.
For one. I mean, we're getting paid. And a lot of times, we're getting paid really good for playing covers when you didn't have to actually take the time to make the song originally. You're just taking the song and either playing it note for note or you're playing it in a version that you hear it.
Right.
Or whatever, or a totally different version. But still, it's still not something you had to spend countless amounts of time figuring out and creating.
Right.
It's just the countless amount of time and hours you had to spend figuring it out and putting it together.
Right.
So you're there, you're on a stage or you're on wherever in a room and you're playing music. And you're playing music, for 6 people or 100,000 people, whatever it is, you're still there playing music.
Right.
You're getting fed most times. Drinks most times are free.
Right.
Or there's a discount.
Yeah.
And you go home with some pocket change.
A little bit of scratch.
A little bit of scratch. And you got to look at that and go, okay, so there's 6 people in the room. Who cares? I'm doing what I like to do. I'm having the time of my life. Right. This is what we've been planning for. This is what we've been putting our time in for.
Absolutely.
So so for the first couple of years, it was like, oh man, there's only 6 people here. This really sucks.
Right.
But then eventually I got to the point where, no, I love this. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
There's only 6 people here. Then maybe it'll be the 6 people that come back again and they'll bring 6 more people.
Right.
I kind of look at the glass sort of half full, half empty kind of thing.
Right.
Pessimistic, slightly optimistic.
Right.
Positive, forward thinking.
Right.
That's kind of my thing. So you have highs, you have lows.
Yep.
It's all in reference of what's going on.
We talk about how there are times where we feed off the energy of the crowd too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, if you're if you're in a weird state of mind and you go in there and there's only 6 people, but those 6 people all of a sudden start getting into
it's great.
what you're doing, man. All of a sudden
energy just explodes at that point. Yeah.
I go into show off mode, man.
Yeah.
And hope I don't trip over it. Right?
I try to go to show off mode and try not to trip over what I'm doing. Try to remember to, you got to come back to that note, by the way.
Yeah, show off mode, and then you trip.
Then you trip.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's jackass mode, right?
Yeah, that is jackass mode.
Well, that's cool, man. So, what are your current bands that you're in? I know you just went from Poverty Ridge to Gaslight.
Gaslight,
right?
That's right. Yeah. So Poverty Ridge ended 2022, and towards the end of it, Christy, myself, and Ian were coming up with what's become Gaslight now.
Gaslight,
So my current project is Gaslight,
and that's it.
And that is pretty much it.
What kind of music? Classic rock?
So it's mostly classic rock, top 40, some blues, what we kind of make it more rocky.
Right.
Everything from like Fleetwood Mac to Black Keys.
Cool.
So it's got a pretty broad range. And then we take some older stuff like 50s Elvis Presley stuff and kind of boost it up and make it more rocky.
Oh, that's cool.
We take some Sheryl Crow stuff and kind of give it almost a Metallica edge to it.
That's cool. I mean,
so we try to like bring it more current, and give it that little extra boost that people are like, oh yeah, it's the Sheryl Crow song. That's cool. But we intro and we come out and like, what is that they're playing? Oh, that's a Sheryl Crow song. Holy crap! And so we're trying to get that kind of reaction.
That is cool. Now, when you transition from Kenny to Bob,
so
a little bit of a difference in style,
right? A little bit
of
a difference in style, yeah. A little bit different guitar style. Bob's got also a great vocal, but Kenny's got that really amazing, like the amazing thing about Poverty Ridge was the vocals,
right?
Band wise, we were all good musicians,
right?
But vocal wise, it was just amazing. Christy would sing the melody, right? I could come in just underneath her melody. Mm-hmm. Kenny kind of came in and kind of made that glue.
Right.
What happened, and then Ian popped right over top and hit that high harmony, and you had this amazing 4-part harmonies.
That's awesome.
And not a lot of bands don't have that. They have like 1 or 2 harmonies, or they have like 1 or 2 backups, or a main singer and some backups.
Yep.
So that was very unique for that band to have that.
Yes.
And the music was good.
Yes.
Music is still good. And we've taken a few of those songs from Poverty Ridge and moved it over to Gaslight.
Right.
Because they're just that good.
That's one thing that really amazed me is I went and saw a Cute Triangle when Bob Majors joined them, and Bob started singing a song, and I was like, wow.
That guy can sing.
I didn't know he could do that, man. And it was good.
It's amazing how people's talents kind of come out. Like
he had just really good, gravelly, bluesy kind of voice, and it was perfect for the song he was singing. I was like, man, just blew me away, man.
He's just a solid guitar player. I mean, it's just, he can play anything. And I like the fact that I can bounce off of him.
Right.
Like we can bounce off of each other. Kenny and I had the same chemistry. Right. I could play a bass line, he'd play a guitar line. We kind of bounced off of each other.
That's cool.
It's the same kind of vibe. So I really not missing that step. It's just just a different sound, and it's a cool sound. I like the sound altogether.
That's awesome, man. And then of course Ian. You got Ian in there filling
on the keys and the vocals, and he's guy can sing.
Man.
Chrissy said it too. I mean, that guy can sing anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he could probably sing the phone book and then some.
One thing I like about Ian, too, is he's just got a great personality.
Yeah, he's so humbled about it. He's not egotistical about it.
Right.
He's not.
Just a cool dude, man.
He's a cool dude. Just happy to be there.
Well, that's awesome. So where can we find Gaslight on social media?
So Gaslight is on Facebook. It's on facebook.com/Gaslight Ignited.
Gaslight Ignited. Get that right, guys. Yep. Gaslight Ignited. Look that up on Facebook, and we'll put a link in the More tab underneath. When you click on More, we'll have some stuff in there. Also, a link to your Facebook.
Absolutely. Pete Friedlander on our Facebook. Absolutely, yep.
And we're going to talk about something now about what I did for Pete. As a artist, more than a bass player, I like to mess around with guitars and kind of give them a new life, Yeah. And we did that with one of Pete's basses, and I'm gonna go over and grab this thing real quick. Just give me a second.
Okay. You get that in the shop.
There it is. So this went from Fender Jazz to a Friedlander Jazz bass.
Franklin.
It's got a great story, man. So, and it's gone through a little bit of evolution as well.
It has been through quite a few.
So, initially, he brought it in. He wanted it to go from kind of a cream-colored bass to this nice green metal flake bass. And so we did that last summer. We turned it into a nice green metal flake bass. And we put some new electronics in there.
On it.
Originally, it was active. It had a three-band EQ on it.
Bass line, Seymour Duncan bass line.
Right. Yeah.
Originally.
So, and then he evolved it back into a passive bass.
Yep.
And we ended up getting some pickups on there that weren't so hot.
Yeah.
And this is really a cool story. These little white pickups right here.
Oh, yeah, these guys.
He had a gas can bass.
I did.
You still have a gas can bass.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we took the the not so hot pickups.
Right.
And we noticed when we played that gas can
we won't name any
bass.
names.
Yeah, we won't name any names. Of course not. We don't want anyone to come back and give us some hate mail,
That's
right?
Right, absolutely. Of course, we could use a free set, if they're willing, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, we noticed when I was noodling around on his gas can bass, I said, "Wow, these pickups
are like
these white
super
ones,
hot.
They were crazy hot." And so I said, we could probably swap those out and put them in your Friedlander green bass, and they go really well with the Perloid pick guard, and just pull it all together really nice.
Yeah.
And now he's got a nice hot green
glittery bass. That's
jazz
right.
bass.
That's right.
And
my name on it.
With the Friedlander name on there.
That's right.
It's even got a signature up here.
Signature line on there, yeah.
So this is a Friedlander Doyle, I guess.
Yeah, it's a Frankenstein Friedlander Doyle bass.
And it sounds really cool.
It does sound very nice.
We did the bridge too.
Yeah, we did the bridge. We put a hot rod bridge on there.
Hot rod bridge, and that's a badass bridge. I'm telling
it makes
you,
the tone all the difference.
It really gives it a lot of good sustain, when we put that nice thick bridge on there. So this is the bass that Pete and I collaborated on and built, and it sounds incredible. So if you want to see this bass and you want to hear it,
that's right.
Gaslight's playing when?
That's right. So we're playing tonight.
Okay.
At Hershey's, at a restaurant in Gaithersburg, Maryland. We go on 8 o'clock. So come on out there, and you get to see the green bass. You get to see the band of Gaslight. Get to enjoy the music and the food and the drinks.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we'll put a link to the Hershey's gig this evening, and also the Razzle Report, because Razzle Report is probably going to have that as well, and any other bands that you guys want to see this weekend, on Saturday or even Sunday afternoon. I know we have some Sunday Fun Day things going on.
That's right, yeah.
And even the weeknight gigs for next week, the Wednesday and Thursday gigs.
Oh, yeah.
So really cool, man.
The Razzle Report. That Razzle really helped me out with getting my band page active. He came out to a gig. He came out to a Frankie's gig, and he goes, "Man, I love your music. You guys sound great. But I can't find you on Facebook to post anything." And he tried to help me out and show me the way to set it up so that everybody could see it. And I was like, "Man, that's really cool. What a great..." And he's a great guy.
Sweet. He is a great guy. And, he keeps the band list together. And if you're in a band and you're not seeing your links on Razzle Report, reach out to Razzle Markel on Facebook and let him know that if you have any shows or events coming up, and he will actually put those up, and you're going to help save him time from having to do the research.
Absolutely.
I mean, he does as much research as he can, but if you send it into him, it's going to save a lot of time, and it's going to guarantee that your band's going to get recognized for those events.
Absolutely.
All right, Pete, it's been awesome, man.
It's been great.
Fan-freaking-tastic. And you guys have a great weekend. Have a rocking weekend. Check out Gaslight. See the green bass.
Yep.
And Pete, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Steph.
And God bless. Take care.